Hey everybody, Fred Minnick here and Pappy Van Winkle. I got my hands on some bottles and I was like, should I taste these on my YouTube channel? I actually get a lot of requests to review Pappy. After people have won them in charity or they have had a taste, they just want to compare their notes to mine. And, a lot of people also want to see me review something just to see, if it's worth it, because I have bagged on a lot of high value products over the years, to include Pappy. And when I got these four bottles, I put it whole. I asked you all if you thought I should review it. And I was actually surprised. I was surprised at how many people wanted me to review it. I was not surprised by how many people were like, why would I want you to review it? I can't find it. Screw that. Bah. I wasn't surprised by that. I was expecting that to be the majority. And in fact, 65% of the people who polled at this point, which around 1,000 votes in, said they wanted me to review it. So here we go. I got the Van Winkle 20, the Pappy Van Winkle 20, Pappy Van Winkle 20-year-old. And what is usually my favorite from this lot, the 15-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. And the Van Winkle Family Reserve 13-year rye. Now, as I taste these, I will give you kind of like my thoughts on the tasting notes, as well as what I think would be a suitable replacement. I will tell you that, going in, if you are someone who likes oak, I'm not your guy. So if you are someone who likes that sweet oak note, I get turned off by oak more times than not. I'm actually going to start with the 15-year. So this is the 15-year-old. Smells very butterscotchy, very marshmallowy. It's 107 proof, which I knew that. I don't know why I looked, but I did. It feels a lot hotter than 107 proof for me. And this is typically my favorite. This is typically my favorite of the Pappy Van Winkle line. And I'm actually really surprised how little I like it in comparison to some of the past pours. It's not finishing very long at all. It's just on the palate. You feel that flash of alcohol. There's some chocolate notes there. There's some hazelnut. There is some butterscotch, but then it's gone. It's like a flash of alcohol, some of those notes, and then it's gone. I'm actually really surprised how little I care for this. This is good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm grading this. I'm analyzing this as like, this is Pappy Van Winkle. Is this one worth that money? Is this one worth that hype? The answer to that is no. This is not worth the money for me, even though I did pay for it. So obviously it is worth it for me because I'm talking to you about it. But yeah, kind of a shocker. That 15 years always my favorite. So I'm rinsing my palate out with some Liquid Death, which is a sparkling water. They're at all the music festivals I go to, so I grabbed a couple cases from I think what festival was I at? It wasn't Louder Than Life or Bourbon and Beyond. I don't remember, but I grabbed a couple cases, because they offered them to me, and I have found it to be a very good palate cleanser. So the 15-year, a disappointment. Let's go to the 20-year. I got to break out my crystal glasses here, my Glencairns. If you would like to get one of these, I just ordered a bunch. They won't be in here in time for the holidays, so I couldn't get them listed on my merch, but look at that. Isn't that cool? Also, here is the going to the 20-year Pappy Van Winkle. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't give you a comparison for the Pappy Van Winkle 15-year. I think Weller Antique, I probably am picking Weller Antique over the Pappy Van Winkle 15-year this year. So, just my thought. Okay. Very, very toasted marshmallowy. Or some hazelnut here. Definitely a lot more complexity than the 15-year. I can say without a doubt I like the 20-year better than the 15-year. You know, the 20-year is kind of a hit and miss for me. Some years I like it. Some years it's just way over oaked. But I love the toasted kind of smell. Like it's like you're in a cooperage and you're smelling the toasting process. So a lot of dried apricot here, a lot of fig, some marmalade. There's some citrusy notes here. The 20-year has quite a bit of complexity to it. In comparison to the other limited edition 20-year that I've tasted this year, it's not quite as complex. The Michter's 20-year, which, you know, I tasted with Dirk Bentley. Hopefully you saw that episode. It was quite a bit more complex and I think complete. This has a great deal of apricot, almond notes, some real nuttiness to it. I love this marmalade note I'm getting, and it's still on the palate, so it's still kind of, you know, lingering around. It's not going away just yet. But overall, the 20-year-old is very good. I recommend it over the 15-year-old right now. And yeah, I think as for a comparison, Wild Turkey has always been a very comparable product in blind tastings when it comes to some of the wheated products because of that lower barrel entry proof. That being said, for the 20-year comp, I'd actually probably go with this won't make sense to anybody out there unless you are just really into like studying barrel entry proofs. This one has this kind of apricot-y marmalade note in it that I have also found in the Russell's Reserve 10-year-old. So Russell's Reserve 10-year-old is a very available, very gettable product. And this has just enough of those kinds of flavors. That has just enough of those kinds of flavors in it that there's kind of a comparable there. But there's really, when you talk about the Pappy Van Winkle line, there's really not many comps out there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to present you something that has like one or two notes that would be similar for me. And by the way, Russell's Reserve 10-year-old, beautiful for the money. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the star of the hour, or usually the star of the hour, and that is the Van Winkle 23-year. But I have always said, that 23-year is not worth the hype. I even did a series here on this channel called Pappy versus the Field, where I tasted Pappy Van Winkle 23-year up against normal everyday stuff, and it lost twice and won twice, and almost lost to a craft brand out of Washington called Woodinville. So, it's a hit and miss bottle. I would tell you, yeah, that nose does not win me over. So I'm nosing the 23-year Pappy Van Winkle right now. It smells earthy, smells oaky, smells like moss, like actual moss, like pond moss. These aren't bad. Those aren't bad aromas. They're just, that's what I'm smelling. And then some pumpernickel bread coming out of the oven. Way too over oaked. I mean, this is like really oaky for me. Yeah, if you ask me, is this worth the money? No. No, it is not. So once I can get past like this bitterness superhighway of oak, I do get some pretty nice butterscotch, some this is gonna sound weird, rose petals. Like, you normally, people can smell them, but you can actually eat rose petals, like those edible flowers. It has like that bitterness from an edible flower. Can't even talk. A balsamic sautéed mushroom, so it's got the earthiness of that mushroom, and it's got like this the balsamic there, with some butterscotch, following that. And so there is some worth to it. There is some complexity to it. But we look at the Pappy Van Winkle line with a different set of lenses because of the mass appeal it has, right? And so when I'm tasting this, I'm being probably quite a bit more critical of it than I would say, I don't know, a Russell's Reserve 10-year-old, since I just mentioned that brand. But this one is not only a miss for me, it's disappointing. The best of the Pappy line for me this year is most definitely the 20-year-old. The 20-year-old is not, it's like it's the only one kind of holding up in terms of complexity. You feel it all over the palate. The 15-year-old was far too alcohol forward for me, and the 23-year is just, it's an oak bomb. It's an oak bomb. And I realize that a lot of people won't get a chance to taste this to understand it, but it is not tasty whiskey. So neither, while the 20-year-old definitely has merit, I can say with certainty that it will not be making my top 100 list. My top 100 list is about, like, if you're one of these uber ultra allocated products, are you punching above your weight class, So that's kind of how I look at it. And that one it's exactly how it should taste, but it's not elevated beyond what it normally is. So let's now taste the Van Winkle Reserve Rye. 13 years. Well, hello. It's nice to have one of these really kind of blossom in my palate. This, the 13-year rye, the nose is really... The nose is nice, right? So the nose is nice. It's got a lot of kind of sugarcane notes to it. So like grass, like seagrass, sugarcane, like sugarcane fields. Which if you've not been to a sugarcane field, check one out in the Caribbean. Check them out when you're in Louisiana, but just make sure where you're walking when you're in Louisiana. Snakes, alligators. You know I'm afraid of alligators. That's a whole thing. But it's got a lot of those kind of really nice outdoorsy herbally smells. And then you get it on the palate, and it just kind of grabs a hold of my tongue, really kind of lightens up like with spice. I'm getting a ton of baking spices. I can't quite figure out what those baking spices are, but it's like boom, 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 boom. Wow. Yeah, this is pretty good. Some comparisons for the Van Winkle Family Reserve Rye. I actually just had a Smoke Wagon rye that I feel like it was comparable to. So, and that would be an MGP related rye, which I find unique because it's usually a very different tasting profile for me. But that Smoke Wagon rye was very similar in terms of how it felt in that spice region. So definitely a win here. A complicated rye, worth the hunt on this one. The other three Van Winkles that I tasted, the 15-year disappointing, the 20-year that's what it should be, but not not crazy amazing, and the 23-year, huge disappointment with the 23-year. But 1 year in San Francisco at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, I actually did not even medal the 23-year. So I have been very vocal about how 23 years is usually far too over oaked for me. So yeah, that's the case here for this year's Pappy 23, way over oaked. But hey, I got my top 100 coming up. Make sure you check that out. It happens Tuesday, December 20th. Pretty much 3 of these are not going to be on here, and 1 just might be. Make sure you tune in. Click that subscribe button and tell a friend about the channel. Cheers, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used for hand sanitizer. Cheers.